All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Discovering Multifamily podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Scandariato with Red Knight Properties. And boy, do we have a special show for you here today. We have Todd Baldwin coming at us from the greater Seattle metro area. And he's also 30 years old. He's Seattle's 30 under 30. He's a real estate investor, entrepreneur. He's been featured in Business Insider. He's also a TV personality. It's been seeing him on different cameos on different TV shows and whatnot. And he's just a really good guy. He's also a YouTube partner and content creator with Google. And he was interviewed during his 20s for his unique real estate strategy that made him a multi-millionaire. So we're going to talk about that. He's been on Bigger Pockets, Wealth Magazine, and different documentaries about politics and capitalism and healthcare. So I don't know if we'll talk about the politics on this show, but we're definitely going to talk about real estate. Politics might come up, but really excited to have him on here. Right now, we're recording this kind of at the end of June in 2022, and we're recording this after the Fed's first 75 basis point hike on the short-term rates. Todd's sitting on a lot of cash right now. He has a strategy he's looking to use, moving forward. We're going to talk about hopefully the interest rate market on both single family and multifamily, and what kind of opportunities we see moving forward. So really appreciate you coming on, Todd.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that introduction. That was a lot. That was everything. You're making my ego incredibly large. So I don't know if it's good or bad, but I'm happy to be here.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, LinkedIn does wonders, man. That's all I was reading from. So yeah, definitely ad hoc. So, but yeah, great. So you're 30 years old now. You became multi-millionaire in your mid-20s. So how did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, it really happened the old-fashioned way, through real estate. So I dropped out of college when I was 22, started working in sales right after that. And I was just working like crazy in order to make six figures my first year dropping out of school. So I was 22 years old, making like 110 grand a year. And I was living very, very cheaply. I was still living like a college student. And I basically just took all that money that I was making and I started investing in real estate. And yeah, I think my net worth crossed $1 million when I was 25, became a multimillionaire, I believe at 27 or 28. I just turned 30 last month in May. So yeah, man, life has been good.
That's awesome. So you invested in real estate. So is that actively, passively, a combination of both? How did that happen?
All actively. I don't do any REITs or anything like that. I'm not knocking REITs. It's just not something that I personally have an appetite for. But no, it started off, like any other way. I needed a place to live. I was moving out of the place that I was renting. And I decided to buy a house with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. And we bought a single family home. We lived together in the master bedroom. And we decided to rent out every other bedroom in the house so that we were living completely for free. So we were living in a gigantic 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom house for free, right? So that was awesome. And then 9 months later, I believe we bought our second house. That was also another 6-bedroom house. We rented that out completely by the bedroom. I'm in Seattle. It's a very high price market here. So like, a 1-bedroom, 1-bath might go for $2,500 a month. And most young people don't want to spend anywhere near that, but they would pay me $800 or $900 for a bedroom. And so it worked out really well. So we just kind of kept buying house after house, and the value of those properties rose. We were collecting, $40,000 a month in passive income. And when you're living for free and making that much money, it's very easy to save and invest, and it can just really snowball from there.
Oh, wait. So 40,000 a month in passive income. That was from 2 houses, or was that more?
Sorry, that was from 6 houses. So
Okay, yeah.
I sort of like skipped over buying houses number 3 through 6. I don't know how much time we have today, but yeah, I just kept buying house after house. Total of 6 houses. 5 of them were single family homes. One of them is a duplex, that's where I live right now. I live in this duplex and I rent out the other half. And then I have a little garage that I turned into a studio. So I had those on Airbnb before the pandemic happened. And then pandemic hit, I just rented them out the regular way. But so the 40K per month in rental income was a combination of all 6 properties. Sure. Because I think it's all rented out by the bedrooms. We had like 40-ish tenants, My average rent is like $1,000 a month. So yeah, about 40 grand a month across 40 tenants.
So how are you able to, obviously you're working in Seattle. Do you have a full-time job right now, or is this your full-time?
Yeah, so I left. So I was working in insurance. That was like my job that helps me buy real estate. So I
Mhm.
left, I believe, in 2019 to go full time real estate. But at my peak in insurance, I had a base salary of 150 grand, and
Mhm.
then I was making commissions too. So I was making a couple hundred grand a year in
Sure.
insurance. And then my wife is a CPA. She works in an accounting firm. She also makes six figures. So we're
Yeah,
basically just like taking all of that and buying up houses.
that's awesome. So you weren't doing, were you doing like cash deals, or were you doing like 5% down? Especially you mentioned a couple single families here and
The first
there.
house I ever bought was 3.5% down. The
Yeah.
second one I had to put 20% down. I believe the third one was 10. The fourth one was 10. The fifth one might have been another 20%. And then
Mhm.
this one here, believe I put 10 or 15% down. So yeah, I've been taking advantage. I took advantage of owner occupancy,
Yeah.
lower interest rates, lower down payment. I took advantage of a first time home buyer program, for
Mhm.
that first property that I bought. But that's pretty much been the majority of it. We talked about a little bit off air how I'm sitting on a lot of cash, and
Mhm.
that's because I do want to be poised to pay cash for a property if I can get an incredible deal. Like if I can get an $800,000 house for 400 grand in cash, I'll do that all
Mhm.
day. So
Right.
I'm cash heavy right now just because I want to have options, because I do think a recession is coming.
Mhm.
And if you have liquid cash, although technically, yes, there's inflation and opportunity cost of that, but I like having the options. And I'm at a point now where having seven figures in
Mhm.
cash isn't actually a huge part of my world, but it gives me a lot of options.
Sure. And so would you look to do the same strategy, buy large single family homes and just rent out by the room? And then how is that from a management perspective? How are you managing that? Is your wife managing it, or do you have a management company that takes care of it?
So I manage it all myself.
Okay.
I do not have a management company. So what I found is you make 2 to 3 times market rent when you do it by the bedroom,
Okay.
sometimes more. So I have a house, it's an 8 bedroom, 4 bathroom house. The market rent for this house, where it is, would be like 3 grand a month. What I'm bringing in is 8 grand a month.
Mhm.
And the cash flow, just the monthly cash flow, the profit every month is 4,000. So my monthly cash flow is more than the entire market rent for the house if I was to rent it out to a family.
Sure.
So the little bit of extra time I spend managing is well worth it to
Oh
me.
yeah.
Um, and I try to, so I have like a strategy to sort of make it easier for me. So we have one house that's an all female house, and then we have an
Mhm.
all male house, and then we have four mixed houses where they don't care. And
Mhm.
because some young women don't want to live with guys, right? So we
Mhm.
have an all female house. So that there's that piece of it. The other thing is we have a maid go through every single house once a week, and she scrubs each house from top to bottom, including the
Mhm.
bathrooms. She'll scrub the kitchen, like she'll vacuum every bedroom. So the house is getting cleaned every single week, so people aren't really fighting about mess. Um, Another thing that we do is we supply every house with the toilet paper, paper towels, hand soap, dishwasher pods, Ziploc bags, tinfoil, all of the stuff that people might share.
Mhm.
Because if you are living in a house and you're always buying the soap for the bathroom, but your roommate's always using it, never paying you back, eventually you're going to get annoyed. So we,
Yeah.
we cover all of that.
Okay.
And still, when I talk about my cash flow being $4,000 a month, that's taking into account I'm also spending money on the maid and the utilities that we cover and all the supplies, and I'm still netting 4 grand a month on that property. So
It's awesome.
I have some strategies in place to make it so it's seamless and sort of idiot proof. Everyone has a parking spot. Nobody has to street park. There's no HOA that's telling me I can't do this or that, right? So I've sort of streamlined it, and eventually I want to transition into apartment buildings just because it's more scalable. It's not going to be nearly as lucrative. My cash on cash return on an apartment building is going to be much smaller, but I can own one apartment building with 400 units, but I probably can't own 400 single family homes that are rented by the bedroom. It's just going to be too much
Yeah.
at some point. But
Mhm.
as far as a stair stepper to make a lot of money really fast, this is the best way I've found.
That is awesome. And so they're all, I'm assuming, within proximity of each other. Like you could drive to them or walk to
Oh
them.
yeah, dude, they're like right across the street from each other.
Wow.
So I have a house here. Like, so if this is a road coming down this way, and I don't know if people are watching the podcast or visualizing it, but I have a house, and then across the street I have another house that I own, and then up the street I have another one, right? And then maybe 90 seconds down the road I have another one, right? So they're all really close together. So for me, when I'm managing it, I can just go do the rounds and be like, okay, I can get to all of my properties within a few minutes. So that is very easy. And the maid too, by the way, she goes and does the round. So every week she starts at one house, cleans that, then goes to the next one, then the next one, right? So it's pretty seamless.
Yeah. So you were able to scale in that sense too, a little bit of efficiencies with the cleaning service. And I was actually going to ask you, how do you manage I guess, the different personalities, which are all mostly younger that you mentioned. So that's a good way to do it. Separate them. I didn't even think of that. And I'm assuming you're getting just younger professionals that maybe work at Amazon or, another large company in Seattle.
Totally. Yeah. All of my tenants, not all of them, but most of them are in their mid 20s. I
Mhm.
have some people in their early 20s and then a few people in their early to mid 30s, but most of the tenants are like, 27. And yes, they're making good incomes. They're just saddled with student loan debt and they don't want
Mhm.
to be paying an arm and a leg for an apartment in downtown,
Sure.
because if you make $80,000 a year, that's pretty damn good money. But if you have $75,000 in student loans and apartments are 2,500 bucks a month, it might behoove you to go rent a bedroom for 900 bucks and save all that money on rent and utilities and parking, because I have free parking at my places.
Yeah.
And so you can blitz to pay off your student loans and buy a house of your own. So I've actually helped, I think, 6 of my tenants buy their own homes now. So
Oh,
six of my tenants, they live with me, rented, saved a lot of money. I helped them understand real estate, secure their own financing, and now they own homes of their own that they are in turn renting out by the bedroom.
huh.
So I have helped some of my tenants graduate to home ownership and even investor level. And now I have a few that are living for free also because they house hack, right? So yeah, I do the best that I can to help people out. I'm providing what I think is a really good quality service. I've never had a vacancy across any house, any room. Literally from when I started in 2015 to today, I have not missed a month's rent, not even a day's rent, because
Mhm.
I'm always occupied and there's a backfill of people wanting to rent from me because of all the perks, right? The houses are brand new, or at least they were when I bought them. We have the housekeeper, there's a house Netflix and Hulu account, all those things, right? So I try to make it like a no-brainer that if you're going to rent a room, you're going to rent from me.
Right. And when you're looking at, I'm assuming have you had an eviction?
I have never actually had to go through an eviction.
Okay.
I have had to non-renew some leases, and sometimes you find someone that's not a good fit. Like, if you come home and you're really pissed off because your sink is full of dishes and you're mad that people are in your living room, you probably shouldn't live in a house with 5 other people,
Mhm.
right? And some people love the idea of saving money and they don't know how much they're going to be irked by that stuff until they actually move in. And then it's like a couple months go by and they're miserable. And I just have a heart to heart with them and be like, okay, you signed this lease for 12 months, you're 2 months in. Clearly you're unhappy, which makes everybody else uncomfortable. So
Mhm.
what if we figure out some sort of arrangement where we end your lease early? I'll find a suitable replacement. And as soon as they come in, you can go do your own thing and get your own apartment. And
Mhm.
I think people really appreciate just the realness about it because nobody wants to be the odd man out and you don't want to be living in a situation where you're unhappy. So I try to do the best I can to match people by personality. It's certainly not an exact science. And then also have the self-awareness that some people aren't the best fit. And you just have a real conversation about that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I was going to ask you from the security standpoint, I guess you're vetting everybody, you're doing the background checks, you're doing the
Mhm.
credit and the eviction checks, regardless. And you just gotta, that's the key, especially in a house share, that everybody's happy. I'm sure you're sitting down with the entire house when someone new moves in, probably, and
Sometimes, I
introducing
mean,
them.
so,
Yeah.
oftentimes the schedules don't line up, but yeah, everybody goes through a background check. Everybody has to sign my lease. I have the criminal check, I have the eviction history, all of that stuff. But sometimes you can make an extraordinary tenant and a horrible roommate, right?
Mhm.
And then although on paper you're a great tenant, you might not be the best roommate, and therefore this isn't a good fit for you. And so having those real conversations, if I can have people meet beforehand, that's great. It doesn't always work like that. But something I used to do, and then COVID sort of shook everything, was every month or so, I would get all of my houses together, like all 40 tenants. And my wife and I would host some fun event. Like one time we took everybody bowling. Another
Oh,
time we had a big wiffle ball game with all 40 people. Another time during the winter, we took them to an ice skating rink, right? We've had cookouts and stuff. So trying to establish a community, and people, all of my tenants pay electronically. Most of it's on Venmo. So at any given time, people can look and say like, oh yeah, 40 people are paying me every month. Like it doesn't take a genius to figure out that I'm making a ton of money doing this. So
yeah.
it behooves me to be a nice person and not some, price gouging, blood sucking landlord that is the stereotype, right? So another thing that I do is I never raise rent on people. If you move into one of my houses, it doesn't matter if you rent from me for 6 months or 6 years, your rent will not go up. The only reason your rent might change is if you upgrade or downgrade rooms. Like if you're in a regular room and you want to upgrade to a master, you'll pay that different price when you move to the master. But if you stay in the same room, yeah, I don't increase the rent on you. When you move out, I raise it to whatever the market is and I get the maximum for it. But as long as you're with me, I never raise the rent on people. I'm already making so much cash flow as it is. Like it's silly. And yeah, I just, I think there is a lack of compassion, I believe, sometimes in a society where capitalism is the prevailing method. And that, by the way, I'm a huge fan of capitalism. I just recognize that that it creates competition, which creates inequality, and some people rise to the top and some people don't. And I feel that as someone who became a multimillionaire in their 20s, it's my responsibility to help others below me.
Sure.
And that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I like the mission behind it too. So as far as the lenders understand, you bought it for single family occupancy, right? And but who cares? They're getting paid, right, every month. And
yeah, well, and it's not untrue either. I mean, I'm buying houses and I'm moving into them, right? Like I buy a house and I move into it. I when I can do that, I can get away with a owner occupancy rate and a lower down payment, and I live there for a year. And I have roommates while I live there, but I'm doing everything that I say I would. And then the few houses that I put, 20% down on, I didn't actually move into them and I didn't claim to. So I'm doing everything above board. And yeah, the lenders are getting tons of money because the mortgage is always on time. I'm making so much money from the rentals that like, even if half my tenants stop paying, I'd still be able to cover all the mortgages. And I didn't have anyone stop paying. By the way, even the pandemic, everybody paid up. So yeah, it's been a really good system so far.
That's awesome. So so your strategy moving forward is to, you have cash. So you're looking to acquire assets with the cash. I mean, you have to put the money to work somewhere if you're not really using it in other purposes. And you're only 32. So what's your outlook moving forward in terms of, where do you think the interest rates are going to be in whatever, 6 months from now? Are they going to be up, similar?
I think they could go higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think last time I checked, I
6.
haven't checked today yet, but last time I checked, they were like 6.2%. I think that was last week. I don't even know what they are today.
Yeah.
I think we could see 7%. Who knows, right? They can do whatever they want. And I will not, personally, I won't pay 7% interest. I just won't do it. I'd rather pay cash. Now I won't be paying full retail cash. I'm only going to be looking for incredible deals. I'm actually I put an offer today of a property that has been on the market for 7.5 months, hasn't sold. And I'm offering them like $500K below what it's listed for. Now, cash, exactly. I might not get it. But if I do get it, hell yeah, that'd be awesome. And if I don't get it, okay, I'll deploy my cash elsewhere. So having cash, I think, gives you a lot of options.
And so the only market you're going to be concentrated on is this greater Seattle area is what you're thinking?
Not necessarily. I'm open to other areas, wherever the good deals are. Seattle is a market that I know and understand. I'm also one of the few people who's actually making money in the Seattle real estate
I was
market
gonna say,
because it's just such a hot market to get into. But when you do it the way I do it, you make tons of money that way. So my competition is pretty low,
Hmm.
because most people who are buying houses in Seattle are just buying it for them to live in, and most folks, you know, can't afford a 6% mortgage on an $800,000 home. It's just not really doable. Um, and so that's where I come in with cash, and I could say, well, what about 400 or 500 grand? And I give you cash out right now because nobody else is buying because interest rates are so high. And
Mhm.
even if I contact 100 properties and 98 of them say no, you only have to do that a couple of
Just need
times
one or two. Yep.
yeah, exactly. For it to change, for it to have a big impact, because then you just wait, you ride the wave, you wait for interest rates to come down. Then when they do, then you go off and you sell it for 800 or 900 grand, and you only paid 400 or 500 grand, right? So I actually bought a house I bought a house in 2015 for 480,000. I sold it last year for 587,000.
Okay.
So, sorry, I apologize, for 870,000. So,
That's even better.
yeah, like 300 grand more than what I paid for it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's pretty dope, right? Like you can do this stuff, and yeah, that's just been my strategy, and it's worked out well.
Awesome. How can my audience find you, learn more about you, reach out to you, learn more?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you guys want to get in contact, the best way to reach out to me is through Instagram. My handle is at Todd J. Baldwin. I'm pretty good about responding to messages, usually within like 24 hours. I do also have a YouTube channel that's linked in the Instagram where I just teach people about real estate and all things personal finance. And yeah, that's pretty much the best way to get in touch with me.
Awesome. Well, I really love this conversation. We haven't had anybody come on the show yet to talk about renting by the room and actually making money in a very high priced, high tax area, I would consider.
Mhm.
So I think that's awesome. So yeah, so anybody who wants to reach out to Todd, I'll have a link to everything he just mentioned in our social media descriptions as well as on iTunes. And speaking of iTunes, if you liked what you heard and or saw today, please give us a rating and review. It helps us get our message out to a greater audience. So thank you, Todd, for coming on the show today and spending a half hour with us.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the invite, and I was happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you.